Hey everybody, I'm gonna just wait a minute until I get a few people watching me here, and I'm just gonna announce this in my group, my free group, so that more people can tune in. How does that sound? That's only if my computer stops lagging. No. All right, here we go. All right. So what I'm going to be talking about today is an issue that so many women have a problem with, especially when they get in a relationship, and it kind of tends to get a lot worse over time. And it's certainly something that I experienced a lot as a man, with my wife, and also, past girlfriends, right? Where, they would kind of ask me to do something. And I'm not talking about in a mean way. I'm not talking about like nagging or anything. That's a bigger problem, right? I can do a separate video for that, but I think that's more obvious, and a more obvious problem. And I think that nagging is actually, it's like a desperation at that point, right? Where women are just so frustrated with their man not doing what they need, right? And becoming often quite lazy, we'll say. We'll call it lazy. It looks like it's laziness, but a man is definitely not really motivated and not doing what kind of needs to be done around the house, right? But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about, even when a woman is quite polite and, trying to be really respectful and sweet and soft and all that kind of stuff, most of the time, or a lot of the time, men are still not going to respond well to that. Hey, Randy, how are you doing? They're not going to respond well to that not because they're lazy, and not because men are assholes, not because men don't care about a woman's needs. It has nothing to do with that. It's because a man cannot submit to a woman's leadership, okay, without and actually enjoy it in any kind of way, right? And this is really important for women to understand. If women don't get this piece, then they are going to continue to mess up their relationships. They're going to continue to push their man away, right, from their heart, from caring about them, from wanting to do things for her. This is really important. And how does that feel? Like, it feels terrible. And I can really empathize with it, because to a woman, what's going to be going on in a woman's mind when a man becomes kind of increasingly dismissive or uninterested in doing anything for her, when she's asking, as nicely and politely as possible. It's like, that feels like crap, right? It feels like your man doesn't care about you. It feels like, or it feels just like he's an asshole, right? Like, it depends on your kind of mindset and belief systems about everything, but it certainly doesn't feel good. It certainly does not feel good to be with someone who you are perceiving as not really caring about your needs and wants, especially if you're the kind of woman that really does care about meeting your man's needs and wants, right? And you do things for him all the time, and it's like, why is it that I do all these things for my man, but he's just so like dismissive or kind of uninterested in meeting my needs and wants, right? Like, and I'm like trying to ask so nicely. And this is one of the biggest misunderstandings between men and women, and causes some of the most problems in a relationship. And it's all built on a misunderstanding of how men operate, because men cannot enjoy giving to a woman if it's through his submission. He cannot do it. We're not wired that way. We are wired to resist it, either externally by not doing the thing, or at least internally, where it's like, even if we do the thing, right? Even if we get the cup of coffee or whatever it is, we don't feel good about it, right? And it feels like we are dishonoring ourselves when we do that, right? The only kind of man who is going to get any enjoyment out of doing something like that, submitting to a woman's leadership, is, like an approval seeker, right? And like a really feminine man who's not in touch with his masculine core at all. And that's not the kind of man you want, and that's not the kind of behavior that you want to be even really enabling, right? Like you don't want that in your relationship. You don't want an approval seeking man. And so what I'm talking about when I say a woman who's leading, right, and a man who's submitting to that leadership, I'm not talking about something as obvious as like, hey, go clean the sink, right? I'm talking about something as subtle as like, hey, would it be okay if you do this for me? Or I was just wondering, would you be able to do this, right? Can you do this? Right? Can you get me a cup of coffee? Can you go clean the sink, right? That language and that energy is just going to make a man completely uninterested in meeting your needs. Like I'm just dead serious. That's just how it is. And from a woman's perspective, it's like, what? Like, but I'm being so nice. Even if I'm being so soft, like I'm being so polite, how can he not be interested, right? How can he be so dismissive? How can he not really care? Well, it's because you're leading, because energetically you are leading. And if you are energetically leading in any way, you are trying to get an outcome with your man in any way, he cannot devote to you. He cannot serve you. He cannot be in the giving role. He can only submit. He can only submit or resist. Those are his two choices. He can either give you what you want and dishonor himself because you won't feel good about it, right? Or he can resist it and you won't feel good because your needs aren't being met. And probably either way, neither person is going to feel good about it, right? Because even if your man does the thing, right, even if your man submits to that polite leadership, you're still going to sense that he's not enjoying it, right? It's not like he's going to put on this big show of feeling like really devotional to you when he's not really enjoying it. He's gonna, kind of skulk. I don't even know if that's a word. Skulk around and doing the thing because he doesn't enjoy it, right? Men are here. Men are in a relationship with you to serve you, to serve women. That's what we love to do. That's what gives us purpose. That's what makes us feel so good. And the only way that we can do that is through our leadership. We have to be the one leading. We have to be. And so if you are in a situation where you are not, your man is not loving and like responding well to you when you're expressing something that you need or want, it's because you're not doing that in a feminine way. You are not communicating with feminine energy, with feminine wording. And your man really has little choice in the matter because he probably doesn't know how to properly lead you into your feminine energy. And so if this is a problem that you're experiencing, you're going to experience it on dates too, right? Whether you know it or not, you're going to be probably doing some similar things where you're trying to ask her, try to get your needs or wants met, and it's just going to push them away, right? So if that's an issue for you, if that's something you're experiencing where your man's kind of being dismissive or kind of feeling distant or uninterested in meeting your wants and needs, I really recommend going to relationshipyourdreams.com and learning more about this. Right? Learn more about what we offer in our lifetime membership group, because this is one of the biggest focuses that we have is feminine communication, getting into your feminine energy, being able to express anything that you need to express, right, any of your needs or wants in a way where your man is like, yes, like I want to do it. You might not be verbally or physically expressing it that way, but yes, I want to do that for you because it feels good. Because it, like, for a man, like for a good man who does care about his woman, right, it feels so good to serve her. It feels so good to meet her needs. It feels so good to put a smile on her face, whether it's getting her a cup of coffee, or whether it's, cleaning up the sink for her, or whether it's, just being stronger for her, or, building a stronger relationship container where he's not, he's not looking at other women or something like that. Like just everything, right? Everything feels so good for him when it's through his leadership, when you are expressing through your feminine energy what the problem is, instead of leading him. Just seeing if there's any questions to answer here. No, I don't think so. Yeah, so this is like the real big game changer. It really is, because I mean, of course there's other, like, I'm gonna talk about so many different myths when I do other videos, but this is one of the big ones. And because women are not taught feminine communication, right? They're definitely not taught that in childhood. In fact, they're taught masculine communication, and they're definitely not taught it when they become adults and start dating, and they're even not taught by a lot of feminine energy coaches. That's the most, I don't know, ironic one of all, is that most of the feminine energy coaches that I've listened to, it's all masculine communication, but with like smiley faces and like some feelings put in there to make it sound like it is feminine, but it's not. It's still masculine. And you're not going to be able to trick a man by anything except truly being in your feminine, right? Truly in your feminine energy. Anything else, your man is going to feel it. And it's even worse, right? Like some of these feminine energy coaches that talk about like expressing feelings in a certain way where it's not actually being feminine, but men are like, it sounds so nice, right? It sounds so nice and sweet that men are more likely to do the thing, a lot more likely to do the thing. But there's still, actually, even when a woman is expressing feelings, but it's not truly with feminine energy, they're still, the man's still submitting, right? And like he'll do it because it's like, oh, like she asked so nicely, but it's weakening him. Every time a man submits to a woman's leadership, even when she says, hey, can you take out the garbage? Just something nicely like that, nice and polite like that. Every time a man does that, he's weakening himself. You are contributing to weakening your man and sabotaging the entire relationship, right? And I'm not putting all the blame on the woman, of course, because the man should be also leading out of it, but he's clueless, right? If he's not in my men's group or Mark's Truth Talk group, then most men are just completely clueless, right, about how to do that. Like, what would you even do? So if you're a woman that's watching this, this is so much up to you to change everything in this dynamic. Everything in this dynamic can be changed. You can literally have a man who like kind of wakes up every day and is like, I'm so excited to do things for my woman, because it's impossible for it not to be, so fun and kind of like intoxicating, even really, of serving a woman when it's through a man's leadership. It just feels so good. And it's all about how you are communicating what you need and what you want to your man. Just literally a difference in wording, which can shift you into your feminine energy, can be the difference between, oh, like, fuck, I'll do this again, whatever, or just not doing it all, right? Just total resistance. The difference between that and, at least internally, whether he's showing it or not, like, oh yeah, like I'll totally do that for you. That gives it like, oh, I feel so purposeful. I feel like I'm on a mission. I feel like I'm, you know, a woman, my woman's protector and provider. It just feels so good. I could do this all day. It's energizing for him. And that's the kind of dynamic that you want in a relationship, just all the time. And you can have that all the time, right? But you need to know how to be in your feminine energy all the time, expressing through your feminine energy all the time. And that's what we really talk about in our women's group. We give you the specific wording, right, to really shift you into your feminine energy and be able to stay there so that you can get, communicate anything that you need to communicate, right? And it becomes so simple. You never have to deal with this problem again. And I don't want women having to deal with this problem anymore because it's really painful. It's really painful for the man, but it's much more painful for the woman when her needs go unmet or when she can sense that her man doesn't care, right? That feels like shit. And you don't have to ever feel that way again if you're able to shift in your feminine energy and communicate through that energy with feminine forms of expression, feminine communication. So if this is something that's interesting to you, if this is something that you really want in your life, whether you're single in a relationship, doesn't matter. relationshipofyourdreams.com. I think the link is on my is on this live stream post. I'll check if it isn't, and learn more about it. Right? I've written up. I kind of redid my entire website, so I've got a whole bunch of information about it. What you'll get out of it. We got 60 plus hours of videos in this group that will teach you all about feminine communication and so much more. Like literally everything that you could need to know about dating and relationships, we've got in these videos already. And all you got to do is watch them and implement the information into your life. So a woman should never ask for anything. It's not that. There's a way to ask that where it is feminine and a man will be really interested in meeting your needs. And there's lots of ways that you can ask where it is masculine energy, it's leading, and a man's going to be like, oh, I don't want to do this, right? That's what the difference is. And one of the problems that women get into is that they will, they'll kind of subconsciously realize at some point that, men are really resistant to, being led in any kind of way, even if it's really polite. And then they just won't express themselves at all, or will very little, right? And they won't speak up for their needs. And that's another problem. Maybe I'll do my next video on that, being silent. Because that's just as big an issue. And when you do that, now you're communicating a lot of bad things about yourself, like low self-worth issues, right? Like, oh, I don't deserve anything because I'm not speaking up for any of my needs, for any of my feelings, nothing like that. And then a man's not going to feel devotional because a man doesn't feel devotion to a woman with low self-worth, right? So that's another thing we work on in our group is how to develop self-worth through your communication, through building that confidence and, recognizing that you deserve the best. Every woman deserves to have a devotional man who serves her, who cares about meeting all her needs and her needs and wants and loving her feelings and making her feel good all the time, right? That's something that's possible for you, but you have to want it. You have to do the work to understand this and start pushing through all those fears for it to really uncover who you really are. You have to make that investment in yourself too, right? Time, energy, and money. You've got to do the work, but it's possible and it's like 100% worth it. Like, how much longer do you want to experience less than you deserve with a man who's just not really interested in serving you, right? That's up to you. You can choose to start changing that at any time, right? The best way to do it, the best way to get started, right? relationshipofyourdreams.com. Got so much information, We got so many members who are working on this stuff and seeing these changes in their lives already. We're just like, it's a switch. For many of these women, it's this automatic switch where it's like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand what I was doing wrong. I started doing something different. My man's like a completely different man within like overnight or within days. It's not true for every single woman, because some require a lot more work to make that switch, or maybe their man is a little more shut down or whatever. But we see cases all the time where it's like literally 1 or 2 days in the group, and it's like, wow, everything's kind of switching for me. This is ridiculous. Yeah, so that's all I got for this one. I think my next video I'm going to talk about the silent woman, because that's another really big problem that women experience. But relationshipyourdreams.com, check it out, see what we got, and I hope to see you there. See you later for the next video.